That's a very nice fish. Oh, you bit it.
Welcome to the Yukon, Canada, one of the world's last wildernesses. All around the world, mankind's activities have changed and affected the environment, something often going under the name of development. In the Yukon, time has stood still, and this sparsely populated part of Canada contains enormous areas of unspoilt nature. At one time, fortune hunters streamed up from the coast to Dawson in the northern Yukon, looking for gold. But today, visitors come in search of other riches: the serenity of the magnificent landscape and the exciting wildlife. The feeling of intimacy is remarkable. Man is really a part of the natural order, and in these surroundings, you understand how insignificant you are in this enormous entirety. The Yukon is bordered by Alaska, British Columbia and the Northwest Territories. It's twice the size of the UK, but with only 30,000 inhabitants, and 3/4 of these live in the one larger town of Whitehorse. The rest of the Yukon is very thinly populated. A very varied range of fishing in lakes and fast-moving rivers is on offer to the fly fisherman. The variety of species is what makes fishing so interesting. There's always something to catch throughout the season. We're fishing for lake trout, pike, grayling, rainbow trout, Dolly Varden and different sorts of Pacific salmon. Dalton Trail Lodge in the southwest Yukon is our base, and our fishing covers quite a large area within a 200-kilometre radius. We even visit Alaska to fish for salmon. The lake trout is probably the most exciting fish in the Yukon, and one that few have caught on a fly, as they're normally found deep in the lakes. The only alternative normally is to trawl. Desdiash Lake is big but fairly shallow, and during the summer the water gets really warm. During some of the warmest weeks, the larger lake trout move into the shallow water, where streams empty the ice-cold water from melting glaciers, providing cooling relief. It's here the fly fisherman has a good chance of making contact with these beautiful fish.
Right on. Oh yeah, that's a nice one. That's a good size one, huh? Bye-bye. Good.
Near the outlet, the fish are in close lines, showing little or no interest in our flies. But further up in the deeper water, the lakers are hunting. Lake trout eat fish, insects and snails, but growth is very slow, normally only half a kilo a year, which means that the biggest fish are up to 40 years old.
Okay, back to the lake.
In other words, we must be careful with this interesting fish and think twice before landing a lake trout for the table.
Good job. Right on.
Thank you for the landing.
No problem.
After a long period with little happening, the fish suddenly start biting, and Jussi and Thomas get a doublé. The rules in the Yukon specify a slot limit, which means that you can take a fish up to 65 centimetres or over 100 centimetres. All other fish of productive size, that is between 65 and 100 centimetres, must be returned to the water.
Oh, nice. Good fish.
Goodbye. Right on.
We went back quite a few times to this interesting lake trout fishing, and sometimes we saw the lake in its normal state. It's very windy. The name Desdiash means Lake of the Big Winds, and we certainly experienced that. As usual, fishing seems to be at its best when conditions are most difficult. But as a hardened fisherman, there's nothing that can stop you from such exciting fishing.
It's a tough one. Almost lost the rod.
One day, when there's a really strong wind on Desdiash Lake, we take the ATVs to the other side of the lake. We're going to 6 Mile Lake to fish for pike, when we're treated to an adventurous journey on a winding forest track. Along the way, we notice scratch marks and bear hairs on a tree. These are territorial markings, and you're very aware that you're in the kingdom of the bear.
No, that should be okay.
In the Yukon, we can fish for the common Nordic pike, and in early summer, they're still close to their spawning grounds. 6 Mile Lake is a shallow lake with large areas of rushes and reeds, perfect for pike. A lot of pike have already moved on to deeper waters, but there's still plenty for us and then some.
Oh, there's a pike coming for a fly.
Oh, strike.
It's a nice fish. He has something red on his back.
You're right, could be from an eagle.
I will try to get it over to you. There it comes. No, it's been bitten or something.
Yeah, probably from an eagle.
There you go. It's a nice fish.
Good size. Holy. Holy. Right in my backing.
It's a salmon, you know.
Salmon. Oh yeah, beautiful fish. Oh, quick release.
Thomas loses a really big pike, but we can see that it stays close to the boat, resting after the struggle.
Nice, beautiful.
Yeah, that was really fun.
Good fish again.
Sometimes you can have too much of a good thing, and even if you return all your catch, you might feel like a greedy predator. But it's just so much fun.
Right,
Almost a double. It's not a big
almost a
one.
double header.
It's a big one, but it's a
Fish.
fish. Yes.
Ha, right on. Well done.
Nice fish again.
Excellent try.
That's a good release.
We wanted to try fishing for king salmon here, but this year the salmon run is very late. We travel down the Takani River to check out the situation. Unfortunately, the pools are empty. We missed this year's salmon run by a few days. The exact time for the salmon runs and the numbers involved varies from year to year. In order to have some control over the situation, the Yukon authorities have a number of stations on the salmon rivers to count the passing fish. We visited the salmon count on the Klondike River to see how it was done. There are lots of salmon in the river, and the fish are counted manually as they pass. At the Klondike station, they count king salmon and coho. When the salmon run is poor, fishing can be limited or stopped, all depending on the figures from the counting stations. Fishing in the Yukon is carefully controlled, and there's a conscious aim to preserve fish for coming generations. All waters have catch restrictions, and the areas in need of most protection have size restrictions for lake trout, pike and grayling. This means that any removal of fish is done selectively. You can take the smallest and the biggest. All fish of a productive medium size must be returned, and you may only fish with barbless single hooks. When they've passed the counting station on the Klondike River, the salmon reach the area around Klondike village, which is an Indian settlement. Almost a quarter of the Yukon's population are Indians and belong to one of the 14 Indian communities. Klondike is part of Champagne and the Aishak First Nations. Hunting and fishing has always been important for the local people, and at one time the village had a salmon trap. Salmon attract a lot of bears to the village area, and a few years ago one of them discovered the salmon trap. This was an easy way to catch salmon, and the bear broke the trap into pieces. But fish are still caught and smoked in the traditional way, spending several days in the smokehouse. The fish are both dried and smoked.
Hey, Jesus, dizzy. Good feeling?
Yeah.
Should we go again, Rizzy? Oh, this is a big one.
Bring them to me for the measure. That's an
It's also 30.
40, about 40, eh? With the tip of the tail, yeah.
Yeah.
40, nice fish.
The European grayling is a close relative of the Arctic grayling found in the Yukon. They're similar in size, but the low intensity fishing here means that we have a good chance of finding grayling in the kilo class. We've travelled to Moraine Lake, a remote lake with lots of good grayling fishing. Gerhard is just enjoying the fantastic fishing.
That was good.
Fall with another one, huh?
Yeah.
What a beautiful grayling.
Right? Yep.
Nice fish.
Bites must be awful here.
Yeah.
The big one also.
Nice. Oh, big grayling, yeah. Shit.
Even bigger.
Yeah. I put him to the measuring stick. You might get a trophy in here. You must go home with a couple hats, eh? You know. The bubbles coming out. In a moment.
When Gerhard has had his fill of grayling, he wants to try his luck with pike in a nearby inlet. We can see the fish in the shallow waters, but they just won't take our flies. After lots of fruitless attempts, we just have to give up. A few days later, we return to give the pike another chance and to try for some grayling. Jussi and Luke fish from the boat, and it feels as if a really big grayling has taken the fly. In the water, we can just see a beautiful but aggressive lake trout, which you often find near grayling as they feed in the same area.
fish.
Oh, thank you.
Nice one.
Eric takes the belly boat to try to sneak up on the grayling. Fishing from a belly boat's very interesting as you become one with the water and see the fish from a new angle. With all respect to the grayling, it was the pike we wanted to get.
Another one on the right side.
The inlet's full of fish, but it's still very difficult to get to grips with them.
There's another one laying there.
Once again, we can see the fish clearly, but they're just not interested in our flies. We try different colours and surface poppers.
No. 3 pikes again. One smaller in the middle and 2 big ones. I tried the other one.
Suddenly, a pike strikes. The changes of flies have paid off.
Taking it now.
A big pike was showing interest in the fly when a smaller one grabbed it.
What to take? Oh wow! We got stuck into something. Shit! It was the little one who took the fly. Of course. But you saw there were two more pikes, 2 big pikes, and they're both like very active on the.
Victory is not always to the biggest. You need to be the quickest to get food. This time, white was the colour of the day, but this can change quickly. There's no simple answer. You just have to feel your way.
Ah, damn. It's a nice pike.
But the biggest problem is that you don't even know if it was the change of fly that attracted the fish. It might just have been in a feeding period.
That's a nice pike.
But the white fly continued to fish well,
Wow, what to take!
and we got a good-sized fish on the hook.
Beautiful take, but it's a nice fish. I think he doesn't like the shallow water either.
On the way back, we pass an old trapper's cabin used by the Indians. There's plenty of game in the forests around Moraine Lake, and at one time there were lots of fur trappers in the Yukon. In the Yukon, there are almost as many bears as people. Estimates put the figure at about 19,000. Most of these are black bears, about 10,000, and there are about 7,000 grizzly bears. In the far north, there are about 2,000 polar bears. During early summer, you often see bears on the road through Klondike National Park. This is a bear-rich area, and they come to the roadside to eat the flowers. Despite its muscular body, the black bear is quite small. A male weighs about 130 kilos, and the female is much smaller, at about 70 kilos. You quite often see black bears, but occasionally even a grizzly will come to taste the flowers. The grizzly is much bigger than the black bear. A fully grown male weighs about 250 kilos. There's a great variation in weight. The biggest grizzly ever found in the Yukon weighed 430 kilos. With so many bears in the area, close contact with man is unavoidable. Wade told us about a meeting which provided both him and a young black bear with a new experience.
All right, now I'm gonna tell you a bear story, okay? About a black bear and a salmon river with lots of salmon, okay? And my friend and I are fishing, and we're all morning fishing and watching for grizzly bears. Like I said, this is a black bear story, but we're watching for grizzly bears, and you're fishing maybe 50 meters from the bears, and they know their place, and we know our place. So we fish hard, we get tired. So you see the pickup truck here. It's summertime, maybe 25 degrees Celsius, and we decide, we have a siesta. So my friend, he's driving with his pickup, so he lies on the hood with his back on the windshield, and I'm lying here. Very hot day. We're having a sleep, and just relaxing, nothing going on, and maybe 20 minutes goes by. We're just kind of nodded off there. It's hot, having a little siesta, and I open my eyes over there and I look over, and Kenny, my friend, is lying here, and there's a black bear, a paw here, sniffing, and my eyes are getting bigger, and about the same time, Kenny, he lies there, he wakes up. What the? Boom! He punches it right in the nose, and that bear jumps back and is and it's running down the trail, and we go wing, one off one side, inside, door slam, hearts going, like holy, bad word. Anyway, that's as close as you ever want to come to a bear. And best thing is always be careful of bears, and that's why we carry this. So that's my bear story.
As autumn comes, there are fewer bears near the roads. If you make the effort to investigate larger areas, you might be lucky. Now it's not the flowers which attract. It's time to really build up the body for winter. Different sorts of berries are basic fare now, so you need to look in the bushes if you want to see bears. Incidents between bears and people are very unusual, but bears are everywhere, and it's important to follow current advice and rules. One of the most fantastic fishing waters in this area is the Kathleen River. The crystal clear waters offer not only grayling but also rainbow trout. They're completely unaffected by stocked fish, and everything's being done to preserve this species of wild rainbow trout. This means that the rainbow trout is completely protected and no fish at all can be taken from the Kathleen River.
There's a nice fish too. Hey, super! Oh, it's beautiful. Yes. 40.
These fish are not as big as in the put and take waters, but this is what a genuine rainbow trout should look like in the wild. Isn't it just fantastic?
There he goes. There he is. Strong, huh? Yeah. take them head first. Beautiful day. Scenery is beautiful. The animals are good. So just fine. Nice fish. Dominic. Very nice, my friend.
Merci.
That's a very nice fish.
Ah, è bella, sorry. Magnifique.
In the Yukon, there are about 65,000 moose, which is twice the number of human inhabitants. But you seldom see a moose. If you travel the length of the Kathleen River in a fast jet boat, you might catch one by surprise. They wade out into the river to get to the lush lake grass. The moose in the Yukon is much bigger than the European elk. It really is a powerful and impressive animal. In Stellar Lake we find yet another fish, Dolly Varden. This is a sort of char and lives in this lake without competition from other species. The water's so beautifully clear that you can see the fish a long way away. The wind can make things difficult, but when the wind dies, it's fantastic to watch the fish rising to the fly.
Ja.
We're using a woolly bugger, the standard fly in the Yukon, which works most of the time. Food is food, and in a somewhat barren lake, every opportunity must be taken. The fish aren't afraid of the boat and hunt right up to the gunnels. The fish are quite long and slim, with a maximum weight of just under a kilo. There's a lot of competition for food, which makes fishing almost too easy.
It's a beautiful fish.
To make it more challenging, we try a dry fly, even though there are no hatches.
Härligt! långsamt levande.
Down by the lake, we see a mighty hunter in the treetops. It's a bald eagle, scouting for fish and rodents. This majestic bird has a wingspan of over 2 meters and can reach a speed of over 300 kilometers an hour when it dives. We've booked a few days for salmon fishing on the Chilcot River in Alaska, and during our journey to Haines, we cross a mountain pass that treats us to some fantastic vistas. At a roadside pull-in, we see something moving, a charming little rascal looking at us curiously. Yes, there's a whole colony of ground squirrels here, living in holes in the ground. They're a little shy at first, but one of them, young and wild, defies his parents' warning cries and moves in to investigate us. We give him a piece of bread as a friendly gesture. Down by the river, we once again see the bald eagle, sharing our common interest in fishing. We're here for the pink salmon, and thousands have just come up the river to spawn. The water is slightly milky, and you can sometimes see huge shadowy schools of salmon in the grey water. These salmon are in the 1 to 3 kilo class, but with light tackle there are plenty of fun-filled fights to be had. When the pink salmon has been standing in the river for a while, an almost grotesque hump appears on its back, and it starts to get large teeth. One day, when we come down to the river, all the fishermen are up on the road. It seems that another fisherman has occupied this stretch. Slowly and surely, a bear shambles up to the river's edge. The fishing's very good, and a neon green fly works best. No matter how battered it becomes, it still works better than brand new flies in other colours. The one truth is that there are no truths when it comes to salmon fishing. Next time another colour combination might work best. They came in thousands from the coast of Alaska, dreaming of gold, fame and fortune. In August 1896, gold was found in Bonanza Creek. 2 years later, over 30,000 people had come to the Klondike to make their fortunes. Some of them had made their way along the Dalton Trail, and at the Dalton Post they traded for horses and supplies. Today, only a few rundown buildings serve as a reminder of a golden age. Dawson City grew rapidly and became one of Canada's biggest cities. A few years later, gold was found in Alaska. The gold diggers moved on, and the Great Gold Rush was over. Today, only about 2,000 people live in Dawson. But on a rainy day, the muddy streets give a good impression of how things used to be. A lot of the old buildings have been preserved, and they've tried to keep to the spirit of those times, but not asphalting the road and keeping the wooden pavements or sidewalks. Dawson is strategically situated where the Klondike and Yukon rivers merge. You can still see signs of the gold rush at lots of places. As time went on, the search for gold was industrialised, and these giant dredges swallowed everything in sight, leaving a winding trail of gravel behind them. Tourists can try their luck panning for gold, but most of the area has been gone over several times during the years. But you can still find gold today. Along the Bonanza Creek Valley, there are traces of old diggings and those of more recent professional gold diggers. The road from Dawson to Alaska is known as the Top of the World Highway, and up here you get a foretaste of the first colours of autumn. On the way back from Dawson, we see huge areas that have been affected by forest fires. Sometimes the same area is hit twice. Here, the last time was in 2004. Forest fires aren't always disasters. Nature needs these fires. Some plants and vegetation are dependent on them. Fireweed, as the name implies, thrives in these burnt-out areas. It soon covers the charred remains of the forest in a sea of pink. Cold nights of autumn chill the water, and some of the lake trout leave the lakes for the rivers in preparation for spawning. The bigger fish spawn in the lake, but the smaller ones are found in the Kathleen River and provide a good tussle. A smaller lake trout of about 1.5 kilos, like this one, has just come into maturity, but the slow growth means that this one is already 12 years old. We're using the usual fly, a weighted woolly bugger.
Woolly bugger alla Thomas. Fint det här. Fint.
Lake trout prefer to stay near the bottom, so we need sinking lines to get to grips with them. In the cooler waters of autumn, grayling and rainbow trout are at their peak, and the Kathleen River lets them show off their very best qualities. The surroundings here are fantastic, and after only a few minutes in a jet boat, you're right in the middle of the wilderness. We tried a few other rivers, and this one is so special that we'll always remember it. The grayling gather here, and it's just fascinating watching them feeding. We christened this place the Grayling Aquarium, which fits in well with how it feels to fish here. It's almost as cramped and difficult as in an aquarium, and if you do manage to get a grayling to take, it's not easy to land it.
Nice Arctic grayling.
Let me have that blue bag, please.
One of the highlights of the trip is the flight to Dry Bay in Alaska. We start from Haines and fly over the glacier to the estuary of the Alsek River. We fish for silver salmon in the East Alsek River in the northeastern corner of Glacier Bay National Park. The river's wide and slow moving. The flow of fish depends on the tides. Sometimes fishing just seems hopeless, but suddenly the river's teeming with salmon. Here, the rule is careful wading, but even so, the fish manage to pass us on the inside. The entire river's shallow, and it feels strange to be able to stand in the middle and fish in all directions.
Nice fish.
It affects me a little bit. These guys come over camp,
With
and that's even
a
kind
rod
of
from
stretching the
by
rules.
hand.
Like for
It's
the
free.
Forest Service, they want you to have
As we're fishing, a plane with 2 rangers lands nearby. They're here to make sure we follow the many rules that apply to fishing in the national park. The fishing guide has a book with the names of the guests, the license numbers, and the catch reports, which must be shown on demand. To minimise the pressure on the waters, the number of fishing days per guide is restricted. When the fishing's slow, we try different places. The estuary is usually a good choice. The wind today is just terrible, and there are no fish left from the previous run. When things are at their best, large numbers of salmon come in on the tide, fish everywhere. You have to fish intensively, and during these short periods, you might even get a silver doublet. The silver salmon is in many ways like the Atlantic salmon, but with one clear difference, as we discovered. Following a number of lost fish, we realised that you needed to set the hook as if you were fishing for trout.
Nice fish.
Two days of salmon fishing's over, and the majestic views from the flight over the glacier make a fitting finale to the trip. We're nearing journey's end, and the season is coming to a close. But we still want to do some more fishing. It seems you just can't get enough fly fishing.
Linan som gör det här, tror jag.
The days of autumn grow shorter, the light fades quickly.
Jag tror att det här kan vara.
Take the chance to catch one last fish before the day and even our journey draws to a close. The Yukon offers a great variety of fishing, and the large number of different species means that there are always new challenges calling. The natural beauty and the varied wildlife offer a delightful backdrop to your fishing trips, adding to the fishing experience. The Yukon authorities have realised the value of sports fishing. This, combined with the low pressure on fishing stocks, means that there's a very good chance of achieving the ambition of conserving the fisheries for future generations. It's easy to be part of the fishing and wilderness experience offered by the Yukon. We hope that you'll get the chance to come to the Yukon and live the adventure